There's so many men today that are aimlessly wondering about life. There's no purpose, no passion, there's no fight, there's no unite. There's weak and there's submissive men. I'm 45.
God, oh my God, damn, dude, what?
Oh, he looks younger than both.
There's a lot of subprimals that are convinced that Liver King is taking steroids. If you don't believe this is possible, then I suggest that you take that self-limiting belief, you put that shit in a fucking box, and you bury that next to all your embarrassing shit, and don't open your fucking mouth about it. They'll pay for value, right? If you're doing what's valuable, they'll pay for it with money, or they'll pay for it by following you. And I think by evidence of the primals that are following this way of living, people need this message. I can't tell you how many kids today
So how do you make these?
are diagnosed and prescribed with conditions that are just nutrient deficiencies.
Hi, I'm Ash, and today we're taking a deep dive into the recent Liver King scandal and also going into why it actually matters. Let me just start out by saying that this situation is constantly developing, so it's very possible there's information released by now that wasn't when I recorded this video. If so, I apologize, but this is at least up to date as of the 3rd of December 2022. Feel free to leave a like, comment, or even subscribe if you like this video. Now, let's get right into it. Brian Johnson gained fame under the pseudonym Liver King through his extreme fitness lifestyle and bizarre raw meat diet. He quickly garnered upwards of 3.5 million followers on TikTok, which remains as his primary platform, but also over 200,000 subscribers on YouTube and 1.7 million followers on Instagram. He claimed that his lifestyle and diet were solely what was behind his impressive physique and adamantly denied using any performance-enhancing substances.
What I'll share back with you, and I'm just going to face it head on. I don't touch this stuff. I've never done this stuff. I'm not going to do this stuff.
What stuff?
The ass full of steroids that he talks about.
You've never taken steroids?
Never taken steroids. I've never done PEDs other than prioritize, execute, and dominate in life.
The ancestral tenets, as he calls them, are sleep, eat, move, shield, connect, cold, sun, fight, and finally bond. By the way, I'm going to refer to Liver King as Brian throughout this video, because we're going to go into some pretty serious stuff, and it would feel kind of ridiculous to refer to him as Liver through that, even though he claims Brian's dead, or something like that.
My fucking barbarian broke out of that cage and he fucking ate Brian Johnson. That guy's fucking gone.
dead.
That guy's fucking gone.
Most of the tenets are based on fairly simple principles. Sleep is mainly about promoting your natural sleep cycle in various ways. The eats tenet focuses on the natural raw meat kind of diet he follows. Move is about going on walks. Shield is about avoiding danger, but what Brian classifies as danger is most modern things, such as Wi-Fi and seed oils, etc, etc. Connect is about being barefoot, which supposedly connects you to the earth and its magnetic field. Cold is about purposely exposing yourself to uncomfortable temperatures because that's what cavemen experienced. Sun is about getting some of that vitamin D. Fight is about fighting for something meaningful. Bond is about bonding with peers through focused activities. Although Brian frequently preaches all of his tenets as part of a beneficial primal lifestyle or ancestral lifestyle, he often focuses on the eat part in particular. Most of his viral content consists of him eating various parts of animals raw, much to the fascination of audiences. Brian's monetized content is far from his primary source of income though. It's mainly a tool he uses to market the products he sells. In much of his own content, and almost all of his media appearances, he promotes his supplements. It's difficult to overstate just how many different supplements this man sells. I've put most of them in the background here so you can get an idea of just how invested he is in the supplement industry. There's even the lady one that helps with lady hormones and other womanly things, I guess. He does state that the supplements are supposed to be taken in tandem with a fresh raw meat diet if possible though, and that they can't fully replace the real thing. But he also insists that the supplements are very useful for most people since it may not be realistic for them to eat a fully raw meat diet, which, to be fair, is probably true. Brian himself has a personal chef who prepares all his food and makes sure it's safe for consumption, and that's not really something anyone could do, so the supplements seem like the best option for most of his fans if they want to follow his tenets and all that. The supplements cost upwards of $70 a bottle, depending on the type, and there's typically enough pills to last 30 days. Liver recommends taking several different ones to round out your diet if you're not on that raw meat grind, which we've established most people are likely not. This gets expensive quickly. Take for example this guy who's left a review on one of the product pages, currently taking the $65 a bottle beef brain supplements, the $46 a bottle bone and marrow supplements, as well as the $61 a bottle wild-caught fish egg supplements. He's currently working his way up to a full dose, and a full dose of all these supplements would cost him $172 a month. Or this dude who's taking $171 worth a month. This lady takes beef brain for $65, liver for $34, organs for $43, spleen for $43, and finally bone and marrow for $47, adding up to $232 a month, plus an unknown amount of supplements for her kids. It's interesting to note that she finds the brain pills that this review is talking about make her tired and foggy, and she's not going to continue taking them. Yet she gives them 4 stars out of 5. And that's the only 4-star review of this product. All others are 5 out of 5. I don't think that's necessarily reflecting only the quality of the product, but also the devotion to Brian and the Liver King brand. This 63-year-old woman has bought liver, bone and marrow, pancreas, minerals, tallow, trachea, beef, organs, intestines, heart, adrenal, thyroid, female enhancement, and bone. All in all, that adds up to almost $600. And here's a lady who's bought 49 bottles of these $65 supplements so far, and that adds up to an astounding $3,185, excluding shipping, mind you. Though, if she subscribes to get them monthly, that's 10% off, so then it's merely $2,866, which is better, at least. Now, I'm no nutritionist. I'm not saying these supplements are bad or that they don't work or that it's placebo. Evidently, as you can see by these reviews that I've been showing, some people have experienced real tangible positive effects of these pills. The reason I'm showing you these reviews is to highlight just how strongly Brian's followers believe in the lifestyle he preaches and how much some of these people have invested in it. People are giving them to their kids. There's a substantial amount of people on his website who claim to use his supplements to reduce or replace various different medications, primarily ADHD meds and seizure meds from what I could find. Here's an example of someone directly rejecting medical care in favor of these pills. There was also a lady who claimed that Brian personally recommended she'd use beef brain supplements to treat her dachshund's cognitive decline. Which is interesting considering Brian is certainly not a veterinarian or anything of the kind. To be fair though, I can't confirm 100% that Brian was the one who recommended her this. When I first saw these kinds of reviews, I didn't know that a huge part of Brian's sales strategy is to more or less shit on modern medicine in order to uplift his own supplements as a better option to treat a variety of needs. Everything from depression to ADHD.
You know how many kids are taking ADHD medications?
A ton.
That just have nutrient deficiencies. It's easy to take fucking medicine, but you know what medicine does? It kind of dulls whatever the fuck you're going through. And so this is a simple, elegant solution. It's accessible to everybody. You can start today, and it will change your life tomorrow.
He's also stated that certain medical interventions, including preventative exams, are only necessary if you're living a subprimal lifestyle and not following his advice and tenets.
I don't go see doctors. This is a legitimate issue, and people do need to be diagnosed with this early.
Okay.
And so that's why this is such a nuanced topic. But here's the thing. You live the 9 ancestral tenets. You're kicking ass in life. You have great energy, a kicking ass libido.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need here's the thing. People aren't living that way. People are living subprimal lives. Subprimal lives, you need to get that shit done.
If you're subprimal, you need a finger in the butt.
Sure.
Got it.
I don't think I even need to tell you how dangerous this could potentially be, right? He's partnered up with Carnivore MD to make the supplements, who also heavily peddles them as a medical option. Now, to be clear, I'm not saying Brian is directly or personally giving these people medical advice. I can't confirm that. I'm also not saying that he's responsible for their choices, but I do think it's fair to say that all this is not a surprising outcome of the way he's been promoting these supplements. There are real people and children, and maybe dogs, affected by the products he sells and the ideology he promotes. An endless amount of people who purchase his products speak of how his brand being personable is a huge part of why they trust him. They get recommended products and take health advice from customer service persons, or even Brian himself. Or at least they claim so. And he benefits massively from that. He admitted in a podcast a mere 3 months ago that he makes over $100,000 a year.
When I said your businesses are doing really well, I mean really, really well. I read online, Little Birdie told me that you're making over $100 million a year from your businesses. True or false?
True.
He makes a lot of money off of his followers, and of course that's not inherently an insidious thing, but please keep it in mind as we move on with this video. So, this is the email the YouTuber More Plates, More Dates exposed, where Brian admits to taking several performance-enhancing drugs. The email was sent back in 2021 to a coach who remains anonymous. I want to be very clear about the fact that the validity of the email has been confirmed by Brian himself. Here are the parts that will be relevant to this discussion. I've been working out for 35 years. I know how to eat, train, rest, and recover. I even have a hard shell hyperbaric chamber at my house. But, as I've reached my mid-40s, it's getting harder and the back fat fucking kills me. To support these exhaustive efforts, I've recently started taking Omnitrope, the 5.8 milligram vials from Empower Pharmacy, $11K US per month for my new dose, which is 4 vials per week, 16 vials per month. I don't know if this shit is grossly underdosed or what, but I have been taking 2 vials per week and my IGF-1 is only at 139, see recent labs below. My doctor told me that I could double it in an effort to get to the upper 200s, low 300s. She thinks I could be a hyper non-responder. I'm wondering if taking a F-load of other peptides could be confounding the results and possibly interfering with efficacy. For instance, here's what I'm currently taking. And then there's a list of a number of substances that Brian is on at the time of writing this email. Now, I don't recognize any of these. I know nothing about steroids in that sense, but there's 6 of them and it's worth noting how long he's been on them. The first and the second one he's been taking for a year. The third one he's been taking for 2 months. Omnitrope he's been taking for 6 weeks. The 5th one he's only been taking for 3 weeks, and the last one he's also only been taking for 3 weeks. Not only does this email confirm Brian has been using steroids, it also reveals what an insane amount of substances he's been on. A lot of these are not meant for human use or are extremely experimental. I should point out that this isn't unusual for performance-enhancing drugs. It's common that they are, or at least originally have been used for animals and such. But I still want to point it out just to highlight that these are serious substances and they can have serious effects on your health. And Brian is using upwards of approximately $11,000 worth a month for a single one of these substances. And he's been using 6 different ones. It gets even more outrageous when remembering how exactly he's been affording this, which is by peddling a lifestyle where he claims happiness and health are accessible to everyone, and a huge part of proving its effectiveness is his impressive physique. How he has achieved it through natural means that are accessible to you too if you buy his products and follow his tenets. People really looked up to this man and took his word and his endorsements of these supplements very seriously, which is especially apparent when you look at some of the reviews of his products. We've gone over a lot of them already, but take for example the previously mentioned beef brain supplement that costs $63, mind you, and that you're recommended to take 6 pills a day of, which means this bottle only lasts 30 days. On the product page is listed that it can help with improved memory, mood regulation, mental clarity, and sleep quality. As previously demonstrated, there are several reviews of this product from people who've clearly put a lot of faith in its effectiveness. I think it's important to look at these kinds of reviews because a lot of people seem to be under the impression that the only people affected by Liver King's grifts are dude bros who want to get jacked, but that's just not true. Brian actively promotes his lifestyle and tenets to families, or tribes as he calls them.
When you figure out that this is how you can get your kids healthy, you understand this is your obligation in life. What kind of piece of shit would I be if I didn't share this message with the world? You know what I'm going to do to get more traction is I'm going to start a company that sells these 9 ancestral tenets.
So there are children whose parents raise and feed them based on his advice. But honestly, I also felt a lot of sympathy for Brian when his substance use first got exposed. This was before I'd looked into his products or read reviews or seen how cultish his followers acted, so I didn't know just how deeply he'd deceived people. But he's built this whole image around being this muscular, hyper-masculine man who can achieve just about anything on pure willpower. But the guy's 45 now. It's not easy to keep up the extreme level of fitness he's achieved at age 25, let alone in your mid-40s. When he writes about how it's getting harder and how his back fat is quote-unquote killing him, it sounds sad. It's well known that being in the public eye comes with a lot of pressure, and I do think that's affected Brian more than he's let on. Of course, this is pure speculation, but it's worth noting that the longest he's been on any of these substances is a year as of 2021, which is well after he started posting content. Of course, it's possible he was on something else previously, but still, it's pretty concerning. There's no doubt Brian would still have a great physique and be a great ambassador for his brand if he kept up his workouts and lost these substances. So it's pretty sad he feels the need to live up to this impossible body standard. He talks a lot about how he was bullied when he was younger, and how working out was a huge part of him gaining confidence. Getting muscular and strong was what stopped the bullying and gave him self-worth. His whole ideology also comes from something I'm deeply sympathetic for, which is his want to see his kids healthy and happy. He sought out this lifestyle because he felt the medical system was failing his kids, and this was the solution. But it also makes me furious that he's displayed this impossible ideal to millions of young men, claiming it's perfectly achievable to them if they just listen to everything he tells them, all while knowing perfectly well they never will because they're not drugging themselves, because Brian directly says steroids are subprimal.
Steroids, primal or subprimal?
Subprimal.
It's such a predatory way to use insecure or unhappy guys for his own monetary benefit. He also uses the genuinely tragic story of his kids being sick and overcoming that sickness with the help of his diet to convince parents to feed their kids these supplements, sometimes in place of medicine. I understand wanting to give others access to what helped you, but the whole medical aspect of it is undeniably harmful. To be fair, there are disclaimers on his products that, for example, dosage should be decided alongside a medical professional. The issue is more so in how Brian himself speaks about medical care and his supplements in relation to that especially.
It's easy to take fucking medicine, but you know what medicine does? It kind of dulls whatever the fuck you're going through. You know how many kids are taking ADHD medications?
A ton.
That just have nutrient deficiencies.
Of course, some of his fans don't really care that he's been cheating his way to his physique. They still believe in his core message of promoting ancestral living. A lot of people are into that, and Brian is currently one of the most prominent figures promoting it. A lot of his advice is, at least to some extent, genuinely good. He promotes basic principles that are easy to get behind. Go on walks, get some sun, stay in touch with nature, spend time with your family. Then these things develop into something much more involved and at times directly harmful. As of today, Brian still has over 3.5 million subscribers, in spite of recent allegations, and he continues to make content. Brian took a pretty long time to respond to the allegations or address them publicly in any way. People were definitely curious to see how he would counter all this, considering how adamant he's been about not using any performance-enhancing products in the past.
Never taken steroids. I've never done PEDs other than prioritize, execute, and dominate in life.
It's very possible that his lack of a public statement was because he's been convening with his lawyers about how to approach this. But then, on the 2nd of December, he released a video to his YouTube channel titled Liver King Confession, I Lied. Before we go into the content of the apology itself, I want to talk a little bit about the response to the video. It was mixed, to say the least. There are two main categories that his fans and curious onlookers fall into, as far as I've seen. There's the people who are generally positively inclined to liver, though some of the skeptics fall into this category as well, and think that this whole thing isn't a big deal, because it's been obvious liver kings on performance-enhancing supplements. And therefore anyone who's believed otherwise is kind of a dumbass and only has themselves to blame for falling for such an obvious scam. I understand where these people are coming from, in the sense that there's been steroid accusations against Brian for forever. And there's plenty of people who have believed he's been on them ever since he gained any fame at all. But it's not exactly fair to blame the victims of the scam for falling for it, rather than the guy who did the scamming. Brian is charismatic and convincing, and he's been real adamant about not using anything. So if you're into his ideology, it's easy to believe him and to really want to believe him, most of all. The second category of responses are those who are angry and disappointed. Both people who have clearly invested a lot of trust and perhaps also money and time into the Liver King brand, and also people who have never been fans of livers but see the situation critically from an outside perspective. This kind of a reaction makes perfect sense. People feel taken advantage of, which is a pretty reasonable thing to feel because it's accurate. Brian has been deceiving and scamming his millions of followers for, at the very least, a couple years. The anger will make even more sense when we dive into the content of the video, which I will go ahead and do now. Brian sits on a throne in his home, or his compound as he would call it. He starts out by addressing his fans, the primals, directly. The video isn't titled as an apology, but he makes it very clear in the first few seconds that's the purpose of it. He even throws in a classic sigh of the old school YouTube apologies to show he means business. He says he fucked up, that he's embarrassed and ashamed, he lied and misled people. So far a pretty good apology, but there's unfortunately more to come. He says that Liver King as a private figure was only an experiment that he made in order to spread the message of an ancestral lifestyle. He never really elaborates on what this means or to what extent the Liver King persona is just a construction, and at the end of the video he still signs off by saying Liver King out. It's kind of mind-boggling. Brian justifies this by rambling suicide statistics. How a now self-admitted fake persona that those suicidal men could never live up to would help those people is not entirely clear, but he still feels justified in using these people's suffering to justify his own action as part of a so-called apology. Only after this rant does he say that he takes responsibility for his actions, but at that point he's already been excusing it and continues to do so throughout the video. He says that actually, hormones and performance-enhancing drugs are fine as long as they're monitored by a healthcare professional. He also says that actually, the Liver King brand barely has anything to do with the success of his supplement business anyway. Never mind the reviews that say otherwise or the multitude of media appearances where he plugs them religiously. Brian has continuously used the Liver King persona to promote and sell his supplements. It's a weird thing to downplay considering how publicly he's done it. At the end of the video, he ties his hormone usage into his self-esteem issues, and how it's really helped him overcome them. That does make a lot of sense, and fits with my previous theories about his motivations, but it's not enough to justify the scam he's been running. The apology is lackluster. He takes time to brag about his wealth and the success of his companies, sitting on a throne while doing so. He plays down the severity by saying Liver King is just an experiment, that it doesn't affect the growth of his companies anyway, etc, etc. These are not the words of a guy who's actually sorry or understands why people are upset with him. The apology is even monetized, so he's being paid to say he's sorry. He's making the people who he supposedly feel deserve an apology watch ads just to hear him say sorry. It's ridiculous. He's influenced millions of people under false pretenses. It's something that deserves a serious statement and apology. It's strange to me how he can try and play on people's emotions in regards to making his self-esteem a justification, while not once trying to properly empathize with his audience and how or why they're upset. Besides, if his goal really is to make people feel better and improve themselves, and steroids is something that makes Brian himself feel better, then why would he have said they're subprimal all this time? If he truly wanted to help his followers, then why wouldn't he share something that helped him? I think the Liver King brand will survive this perfectly well. As I've said before, there's plenty of fans who simply don't care that he's on steroids, so they'll definitely stick around. There's also a significant amount of people who watch him because they think he's strange and fascinating, or people who hate watch or find his content gross. Those audiences will probably stick around too. If there's one thing Brian's got going for him, it's that he's unique and attention-grabbing. Even if he loses some of his loyal following from this, I'm sure he'll be able to regain followers in no time. And even if he somehow loses everything and fades into obscurity, he's still, as he likes to point out, very wealthy.
You're making over $100 million a year from your businesses. True or false?
True.
And he'll be fine. We'll have to wait and see if there's any legal fallout from this whole thing. It's possible that he could get in trouble for false advertising. Okay, so So that was the video. If there's anyone still watching, I want to say thank you so much for sticking around for this whole thing. It was originally meant to be a small project, but, well, here we are. I hope there was something in here that you found productive. I know this video ended up being a little bit messy and the editing isn't ideal, but this is the first video I actually posted publicly, so I'd appreciate all and any feedback. If you liked it, I would be very happy if you subscribe, because I'm planning to post content somewhat regularly from now on. At least that's the goal, because I really loved working on this, a surprising amount. But that's all I've got to say for now, so thanks again, goodbye!